So this is the fifth part of the our following tutorial series. So in this video, I'm going to show how to implement a pseudocode for find the smallest number in an array and where it's situated, which means the how to write a pseudocode for print the position where that smallest number is existing. So as you can see, here is the pseudocode. First, you should have initialize the corresponding variables. So generally, you should initialize the lower bound. In my case, I initialize it as I, and to identify the minimum value, you should have initialized the variable for the minimum value, and likewise, in order to identify that corresponding position of that minimum value, you should initialize position variable. And for our traversing purposes, we can use the basic while loop or for loop or any kind of iteration process. So in here I has been used the while loop. So this while loop should be happen each and every time until it reaches the upper bound. And when each iteration in each loop, this should check where that minimum value existing. So in order to do that, we can use if statement. So this if statement is checking that our corresponding value is smaller than minimum value, which means we should have initialized a minimum value as the default minimum value. So let's say our first value is the minimum value. So before we are going to our while loop, we should initialize that corresponding first value as the default minimum value. So this if statement will check this value is actually minimum less than to that value. So if it is not less than to that value, this value will be changed. So let's say this is 5 and our default minimum value is 10, then 10 is not so 5 is less than 10, so which is this statement is true. So this minimum will be changed to the 5 because our existing value is 5, our default value is 10. So now it says that existing value is less than our default value, so that default value should be changed. So in order to do that, we can simply use indexing and make that happen, and it saving the corresponding position because for now that is the corresponding position which exists in the minimum value, and this process will be happen continuously. So if this find some greater value than our default minimum value, that minimum value should not be changed because we are only going to find the smallest value and the smallest value position. So there is not necessary to consider the larger values. So else mean the minimum will be remain same, it won't be changed or do anything. So likewise the same thing will be happen again and again, and it will be find the minimum value and also the corresponding position. And in order to finite our iteration, the I will be increases in each step. So this while loop will be ended after reaching the upper bound, and after initializing, after running the our while loop, that position will be printed. So this is how pseudocode look like to print the position of the smallest value in an corresponding in a particular array. So this is how our C code look like after we done our code. So let's move our code. So first we should initialize our preprocessor, which is stdio.h. and our void main function or void main method or function. So I have initialized some variables here, smallest position and smallest number, and let's say our array is an integer array which having 6 elements. Let's say 1, 20, 5. Okay, so let's say this one is 56 and 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, next is 89 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this is our array. So if the program will run correctly, this should be printed our position as at the index 3, because the smallest value is existing at the third index. Okay, so now we can write our for loop. I greater than or equal to 5 and I also increases, and each time we are checking that. Okay, so before checking the corresponding value, we should initialize the default smallest value. So I say, let's say smallest number is the first element that existing on the array, so array 0. So now it's checking that let's say first we are getting a value from the array, then it's checking with that corresponding smallest number, and if it is smallest, then the smallest number should be array I, and the position, the smallest position will be I. If it is not, that is not necessary to change the smallest number or smallest position. And after this check, the I should be increment to finite our for loop. And after happen all of these things, it should be printed the position of the smallest number in the array. So this should be printed I. No, not the I, but the smallest position. Okay, so let's compile. Okay, so I missed the semicolon over here. Okay, so now there is no error. So let's compile and run. So now it's saying position of the smallest number in the array is second index. So this might be having some kind of problem. Okay, let's print corresponding smallest values. Okay, so it's saying smallest is only 5, and it is not checking the 1. So let me check. Okay. So here's the problem, that our while loop is only going for this value. It is not going on to the upper bound. So we should only consider I is less than 5 and compile it and run it again. So it's only saying 5 is the smallest value. That's the problem, I think. Smallest second position. Okay, here's the thing. After the for loop, this I will be incremented by 1. So it is not checking the first value. So it is wrong. So in order to fix that, we can use, I think, a while loop maybe. While okay, so our condition is this condition. This condition can be used, but while loop will be much easier. And after each and every iterations, this will increment the I. Let's compile it and run it again. So now it's saying the smallest value of the array existing at the third index, which is correct. So now I'm not going to use this line because this is not what we are seeking for. We are only seeking for the position of the smallest value. So it's saying now the smallest number in the array existing in the third index. So make sure don't use for loop for that, because there is also in a iteration on the for loop, in the for loop and on the for loop. So this will be iterated twice. So in the first iteration, this only check 56 and it miss the 20 and check 5. So miss 1 and then check 89, 89, because the iteration of the I happened twice, or incrementation of the I happened twice. So there will be missing one value. So don't use for loop. If you are using for loop, there should be two variables for that increment purposes. Otherwise, you can use simple while loop and do the same iteration by using one variable. Okay, so that's how we write C code, then pseudocode for find the smallest position of the array. Thank you.